back to another episode of Be the CEO of Your Own Life, the show that's all about personal growth and development. I am Olga Lacroix, your host. And in today's episode, we are diving deep into a topic that goes beyond your workplace. We're talking about developing leadership skills, not just to lead in your job or career, whatever that is, at whatever position you currently host, but to lead as a whole, as a human, in all aspects of your life, health beyond anything, any realm of existence that you have. So get ready to dive in. Okay, first of all, let me give you some context. I was just in a call with a peer coach who she's a coach for leaders in leadership. And I was explaining to her what leadership is to me, and she was telling me what leadership means to her. And we both agree that for both of us, leadership is about self-development, is about creating self-awareness, is about showing up into the different roles that we have in our lives intentionally, purposefully, with a lot of self-responsibility. My program, this podcast is called Be the CEO of Your Own Life. That summarizes my thoughts about lifestyle, about how do we need to show up in our lives to be mentally, physically, emotionally happy and healthy. It isn't about delegating what matters to us, our well-being, to others, but about taking ownership and stepping into that leadership role. So one of my biggest missions in life is to help people in general step into that leadership role. Not just at work, of course, at work. I want you to step into leadership, whatever your position, but especially in your own life, as you see yourself as the CEO of your life. Hence the name of this podcast and of my coaching program, Be the CEO of Your Own Life. So we're going to break it down in this episode to talk about what is required of you to step into the role and the shoes of the CEO in your own life. Leadership isn't just confined to the corporate world. Obviously, it's about taking the reins of your own life, making conscious choices and navigating through your life towards your goals as the captain, as the person who makes the calls, who delegates, who understands what's going on, who has a clear pulse in your life so that you can point out at what's working, what are the areas of weaknesses, and what are we going to do about improving our strengths and improving the areas that are not so strong. To lead effectively, you must first lead yourself. I know this sounds like a hallmark slogan, but it couldn't be more true. I tell my clients all the time, fish don't know they're in water until you pull them out of water. If you've been following my podcast for a while, I promise you've heard me say that before. It's one of my recurring phrases because it is what for me clicked when I realized I didn't always knew I was in water. That's why I will permanently have a coach. Coaches for me are my blind spots, and yeah, therapists can do the same for you. So it all starts with self-awareness, understanding yourself a little bit more, understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, your values, your purpose, I already said values, I was going to say it again, but the foundation of leadership is all about getting to know yourself. So if I was to use a parallel of somebody who's leading a corporation, the CEO of a corporation, that person's even journey to make it to the CEO had to be based on getting to know themselves really well and not use what they knew about themselves against themselves. So if they notice a weakness, they wouldn't just beat themselves up because they had a weak point, but they actually became curious, understand themselves, and supported themselves in that weakness so that it wouldn't stop their progress. You see the difference? Whereas I think most of us in our lives see our weaknesses and then we feel really bad about not being great at something. And then we feel that it's imperative that we're perfect or else no progress is going to be made. And we do not delegate and we do not address the things, the weaknesses. So to lead effectively, we got to become self-aware of our strengths, our weaknesses. I tell my clients of our opportunities and our leaks. Where are we leaking things? And do something about it. So then we have to become very clear about our intention, our goals. Goal setting is a leadership superpower. Anytime I refer to leadership throughout this episode, I am talking of you as a leader of your own life, but you can also utilize it to leading in your teams if you are leading teams, or leading your relationship, or leading your, like, whatever it is that you lead. But I really wanted to bring this concept of leadership of you as a whole human in your own life, as the chief of your life, mental health, physical health, career, relationships, personal growth. So let's come back to setting clear intentions. Guys, just hear me out when I say I am not talking about clear expectations. You might want to have those as well. I am talking about your intention, your dreams, actionable steps, your motivation, what drives you. So when you think, for example, about your own relationships, your relationship with your parents, with your siblings, with your children, with your spouse, what goals do you have within those relationships? You personally, for you, not for the couple, not for mom, dad, for you as a daughter, as a son. What is your intention? When I think about my intention, it's so different from my expectations. I expect to be a good daughter, or they're expecting me to be a good daughter, versus I intend, even if it is still to be a good daughter. That's my intention. And then I have to define what being a good daughter actually means to me specifically, not to society, but to me specifically. So for me, Olga Lacroix, being a good daughter equals inviting my parents for coffee or supper, building a relationship between my parents and my child, trusting my parents with information, going to them for help, letting them parent me, spoil me, taking them to the doctor's appointment, taking care of their health, anything that they need. That's my own definition. Yours might be very different. And from that perspective, I could set goals that say, hey, go visit your parents once a week with your son. Take your mom or dad for coffee on their own and have a whole conversation so you're not interrupted. It is different that I should call my mom. That didn't come from my heart. That came from like a sense of obligation. You see the difference between expectations and intentions? The call here as the leader of your life is to move through actions in life intentionally, which means you've given some thought. You understand what matters to you. And from that perspective, that's why I talked about values. You are choosing to show up into that aspect of your life with the conditions that matter to you. That's what makes you the CEO. So setting clear intentions and goals in different areas of your life is important. The same goes for your mental health and physical health. It is, by the way, when I talk about mental health, it is not the same as being mentally ill. When you talk about your health, we're not talking about your illness. We're talking about your entire physical health. And we do a lot of things for our physical health, even though we're not sick, so that we don't become sick. So the same goes for mental health. You know, I heard somebody on Instagram say that they asked them, she was sharing how she's been seeing her therapist for years. And somebody said to her, well, maybe that's terrible. Maybe you should find a new therapist. And she was like, I don't do this to be done with therapy. You didn't get it. It's not something you do to check mark, I've done it. I do it to stay healthy. And I can definitely attest to that, having ongoing coaches in my life and a therapist. There might be times where I feel like I need to see her weekly, once a month. I get to decide, but that is why my mental health is thriving. Self-awareness, this is what I need. As an empath, for example, for me, I am an empath. I feel all the feelings. it is imperative that I have a process with a mentor that allows me to hear myself out, to explore my emotions, to journal. Those are non-negotiables for me because of who I am as a human. So that getting to understand yourself gives you cues that you need to succeed in life being who you are. Okay? So once again, self-leadership begins with a self-assessment, self-awareness, getting to know yourself better, not to use that against you at all, but to get that as information that you now have to show up and lead with intention. Know what you need. Ask for supports where you need them. Um, Setting clear intentions and goals is important for you because then you know what the North Star is. Most of us are showing up to our own lives. I was telling this to the coach. She laughed. The coach I was talking to, I was telling her that in my experience, most people are showing up to their lives like not just as an employee, meaning I come here, I do what you tell me to do, you tell me the task, I do, but as a mediocre employee. I love my employees who have initiative, who come and say, hey, I noticed there was a gap here and I researched and I've thought about it, and let me present to you all the other things that we could do to improve this problem that you never brought up to me that is a problem. I just noticed it. I love those humans. I want those humans to work for me. They're not a mediocre employee. They're not just an employee doing their job, waiting for their task to be done. They're thinking, they're owning, they're like, okay, this is how do I become uh, more purposeful in the job that I do. How do you show up to your own life as the leader? Or are you waiting for your husband to make you happy, or your wife to make you happy, or to ease your anxiety? Or are you waiting for your doctor to tell you what you need to do to take charge of your mental health? Or are you waiting for something dramatic to happen before you finally say, hey, I'm going to tend my mental and physical health? Enough with this. Or are you waiting to be 100 pounds uh, lighter or heavier than you are now to finally attend to what's going on with your food habits, for example? Do not show up as an employee. Show up as a leader in your life because you get to benefit. When you take the lead, you become empowered, you become resourceful, you become knowledgeable of who you are, and you get to gift to the world, to your community, a much more grounded in reason you. Let's talk about emotional intelligence and communication. Effective leaders excel in emotional intelligence. Understanding and managing your emotions and connecting with others on a deeper level is an essential skill, and we're going to begin with you. How do I understand, manage my emotions so that I can connect to myself at a deeper level? I always say 90%, but it seems to me like the majority of people that I work with have created a massive gap in the connection with themselves. I coach primarily women, but not only women, especially since I've opened private coaching again. Parenthesis here, I am working diligently towards becoming a master coach, which means I need to have 2,500 hours of coaching under my belt since being certified in this type of certification, which means anything I did before that does not count. So it's like I'm a brand new coach. So I'm needing a lot of hours. So as a way to acquire my hours, I have opened back private coaching so that I can get into becoming a master coach. If you want one-on-one coaching, come to me because I'm taking just about as many people as I can. Okay, coming back to emotional intelligence, close that parenthesis. Understanding and managing your emotions and connecting to yourself at a deeper level is an essential skill of being a good leader. If we come back to yourself, the majority of people who come work with me have created a gap in that connection with themselves. When the women I'm coaching tell me that they have forgotten about themselves entirely, I know that there has been a disconnect in their relationship with themselves. When we become mothers, when we become wives, when we become friends, often we tend to forget about the I in that relationship. We focus so much in the we that really becomes a you. I focus so much on you. I was coaching a woman this morning who told me she's been unhappy with a purchase her husband made and their sex life for years. And she hasn't said anything because she doesn't want to hurt her husband. But who's hurting in between herself and her husband long term? Because she's become distant, she's become resentful, as opposed to opening communication and saying, okay, I exist in this relationship and that requires my participation and that requires me communicating and that requires me landing into my life with intention, with a goal, with purpose, sharing me in this partnership. So, emotional intelligence is key and communication, even more, for you to be a good leader. And that begins with yourself. So, when I notice that you have a break in between you and you, there's no connection, I invite my clients to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is a phenomenal, gentle way to begin to connect to ourselves. We normally rest in silence. We get to know what our body feels. Now, I love what my clients tell me. My body was telling me that I needed to rest. Those are words that normally my clients won't tell me before they start working with me because they're disconnected. They would normally not know what themselves were saying about something. They just knew that it didn't feel good when they were doing something, completely dismissing their internal dialogue, informing them that perhaps eating sugar was not for them. So communication with yourself is verbal and not verbal. It has like physical. I have a client we joke about. She has visceral feelings that make her react and is self-managing that and self knowing like what these visceral sensations actually mean to me. What is it that I need when my body is communicating this way? Once again, getting to know yourself at a deeper level is an essential skill to lead the life that you want to, not the one that you're afraid of. When we live in fear, we disconnect from ourselves and we start leading the life that we don't want to. It sounds messed up, but our main focus becomes the things that we're afraid of. So then we're like, don't go there, don't go there. And that becomes our focus of attention, our conversation. We disconnect from self. We're not listening to our intuition. We're not listening to our mind and body, etc. I think I might have made this point clear. So, paying attention to what your emotions are telling you. Emotional intelligence means we listen to our emotions because we're not just logical, we're also emotionally equipped to make decisions. And I have a lot of clients once who are scientists and they lead with their logical brain and it's gotten them places to lead with their logical brain. We want them to continue to. And they often find it difficult when we start practicing mindfulness, when they start connecting to their bodies, to kind of know how these two communicate. And so they tend to go into the black or white. Either I lead with my emotions or I lead with my brain, logical, but I can't lead with both at once. And that is where the game is at. How can you lead with the all the information you have at hand? And you have logic at hand and you have emotions at hand. And how can those two get married and make decisions together as a team? Listen, life throws curveballs to all of us, and in our role of leadership, that's not an exception. We will also face curveballs. Uh, It is essential for a good leader to develop resiliency and adaptability. It doesn't come easy for all of us. It happens to be one of my gifts. I actually adapt very easily, and it could also be a bit of a hurdle because I adapt so easy. But here's what I want you to think about. When it comes to being the leader of your own life, you can expect changes, things that you didn't imagine, an illness, a loss of a job, your partner loses their job, um, a pandemic comes in, a pregnancy you were not expecting. I don't know. Anything can happen that you were not expecting. A raise that you were not expecting. It could also be good. But let's think about the things that require us to adapt and move. For any of you who are listening to me who have moved from one country to another, from one city to another, it's a lot of adaptability. Change requires adaptability. Change is a constant. As the leader of your own life, as the leader of your company, of your team, you have to have a budget emotionally and mentally reserved for change. That's what I call resiliency and adaptability. If it doesn't come natural to you, like for example, comes to me to adapt to change, if you find that you resist change, in this self-awareness that you're doing about yourself, that's key information, because you know that you're going to have a setback, that you're going to have to get the most amount of support when big changes are coming your way, and you know your go-to is resistance, and that's not going to serve you. Okay, so we can expect life throwing curveballs to all of us, but as the leader, you want to begin to develop that resiliency and that adaptability so that you can bounce back after a setback, and that you can navigate those setbacks with a lot of grace and empathy and compassion for yourself. Once again, this is when I have utilized coaching and therapy. And like at this particular moment, I've got both going on at the same time. And maybe one day I'm gonna come out and tell you what I'm working towards right now. That's challenging me to a core, is brought back memories, is making me feel like, just one decision I've made for my life that is gonna be like, I'm sure it's gonna, for sure, I don't know, it's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be such a good thing to have decided on. But it doesn't come without a lot of change. And although I'm very adaptable, I'm still also very emotional. And as the lead of my own body and mind and life, I've decided that these are the moments where I need extra support. So I'm getting coached once a week. I'm seeing my therapist twice a month, and I feel well supported. Like that is what I want and need right at this moment. So notice how I didn't make this a bad thing. Oh my God, this was traumatizing in the past, doing this same thing. So that's a scary thing for me. I get it. I'm going to jump in with a lot of compassion, but I'm also going to support myself so that the decision here is to not decide or not do the thing that I really want, but do it with a lot of support so that I can bounce back, right? For me, it's less of us. It's not a setback at all. It's just having made a difficult decision, and difficult in the sense that my heart really wants it, but my brain also really remembers having made that decision before and having had a broken heart. So, okay, moving into your health and well-being. You're not work on in isolation. You're not just body. You're not just emotion. You're not just career. You're all the things. Wherever you go, there you are. Whether you are listening to this episode and thinking, well, I am a leader in my office and I want to be the best. That leader also shows up as a mom. You're a mom. You're a mom at work. You're still a mom. You're still a manager at home, right? Like we don't live in our own existence is not in like shelves, and each part of us is in that specific shelf, although some of us will love it that it was that divided, but it is not. So your health and well-being is at the core of who you are. Your physical and mental health is the pillar of everything else you experience. Think about it. If you are unhealthy, what do you have? What do you have? What are you looking for? Health, like as long as you're healthy, you can pretty much do a million other things. You can figure it out. So true leadership includes taking care of your physical and mental health. A healthy body and a healthy mind are the foundation for leading and fulfilling your life in every aspect. I cannot put enough emphasis. If you are a person who so far has gotten away without investing in your physical health, in your mental health, think again. If you're mentally healthy and if you're physically healthy, the possibilities are endless. If you're physically and mentally limited, you have less possibilities. And that's fair. Some of us, that's our reality. But even within our limited conditions, we can choose to invest so that the health that we do have, so that the mental health or physical health that we do have can still be brought up to the max, that where we can find fulfillment with the limitations that we already have. So how do you prioritize self-care, nutrition, exercise, mindfulness? How do you optimize your well-being? It has to come as a strong value for you. I was coaching a client of mine who's in her 60s, and she was saying, you know what? Everybody is like, oh, hey, I want to lose weight, live a long life. She's like, I don't want to live past 85. And I'm totally okay with that. So I don't care that much. But what will really motivate me is to get to that 85th birthday without being a burden to anybody else, having been independent all my life. Right. Like, so getting to know what motivates you, what your goals are, what your intention is important. And it doesn't have to be like your next door neighbor or your partner or your best friend or your sister. It can be different, but meaningful to you. Self care. If you're still telling yourself self care is a matter of bubble bath, a glass of wine, and the spa, please bring to mind that it is deeper than that. You are a complex human being with a lot of roles, a lot of emotions, a lot of needs, whether you want to admit it or not. And drinking wine and going to the spa only takes care of so many of them. I want you to go deeper into what self care is for you. In a previous episode, I discussed with Greg Kligman how, for me, self care, being an empath, feeling everybody's emotions, being extremely caring, and my ability to feel everybody's emotions to such a degree. A glass of wine will do nothing to recharge my energy. Absolutely nothing. Going to the spa will soothe my nervous system, but not enough. So, through that self awareness, through my own coaching experience, through my own therapy experience, I've learned what refills my cup is writing, journaling, like nothing else. But that's me. You have to figure out what it is for you. Therapy, coaching, listening to myself process my own thoughts, mindfulness, how in moments of silence, connecting to my breath. That is self care for me. Nutrition. There are foods that I will eat that will cause inflammation, that will make me lack sleep, that will bring my nervous system to being on flight or fight response. Food, right? So I want you to think about what brings about for me real wellness, real health. What is that for you? Don't follow what everybody else is doing. Get curious to understand what it is for you. We've talked about positive habits in this podcast several times. Leadership is not a one-time act, but is a series of consistent positive habits that raise you that level you up, that raise your vibration, your health, your happiness. So explore habit formation. There's a phenomenal book called Atomic Habits. Everybody should read that book. It is great. It will teach you how to create new habits, how to implement into the habits that you already have formed. Mental discipline takes practice and takes time to form it. In my opinion, every leader has a strong commitment, at the very least, to creating habits, routines that work for them, that support them. One of the strongest routines that I've created for myself, as some of you already know by following this podcast for a while, is my morning routine. Because I am an empath, because I feel all the feelings, because my job is to be of service and I love it and I wouldn't change it, because I am such a giving friend and mother and daughter and wife, I understand that for me, a non negotiable is to begin my day taking care of my needs. And when I don't do it, I feel it. And I will care to say everybody else around feels it. So, being a leader of your life means you're going to make a commitment to be consistent in those habits that bring positive results to you and your life. And don't get me wrong, you already have habits in your life, but they might not be the ones that bring you empowerment, that cultivate your health, your physical health. Like reading books, for example, is one of those habits that I have intentionally, didn't come natural to me, cultivate it because it brings my brain to happy places and my brain needs to go to happy places. I also want you to think about leading with purpose, with like wanting to make an impact for yourself and others. Leadership is not just about personal gain, it is about making a positive and a marked impact on the world around you. This is why I'm so passionate to coach people who want to become leaders in their life is because I want you to be interested in what happens after you. What is your legacy? And you don't have to write a book and become a president to have a legacy. You are going to be a daughter or a sister or an aunt. You're leaving a legacy. Your imprint comes through this world, and it's felt. So delve into finding your purpose. How do you want to use your leadership skills to contribute to your community and beyond? And it could be that you just want to spread your art all over, or your smile. It doesn't have to be complicated, but leading with purpose, like it matters. Why is it that I do what I do? Why do I engage in the things that I engage in? Why do I work here? Remembering your why. Why do I care about recycling? So that is all I had to tell you about leading your life, stepping into the role of the CEO. This is what it's all about. It's about stop delegating your happiness to summer, to the weekend, to your partner. It's about owning your experience in this lifetime, because we get one life to live. We get only this moment is guaranteed. We have no idea what tomorrow brings. And when we delegate our sense of enjoyment and fulfillment, when we don't see the urgency to step into the leading role of our lives, that vacancy of that position costs us our happiness, our health, and our relationships. So step into this role. It's not as crazy as it sounds. It is full with responsibility, but the kind of responsibility that brings you the best rewards. Is the highest paying job you could have. The return on investment is massive. Embrace the leadership, that the leader that lives in you. Develop the ability to go and develop some of those skills. Invest in developing those skills through coaching, through therapy, through books, podcasts. If any of this has made you a bit more intrigued into what coaching can do for you, head over to the show notes. Book a free call. You and I, we can talk about this. We can see if we can work together. I would absolutely love to help you develop those leadership skills so that you can land into your own life as a CEO. And just think for a second, how will you benefit from that? Who else will benefit from you suddenly stepping into the leader that you know you have within you? Head over to the show notes. Let's go. I want you to book a call with me. We can meet face to face. I want to meet face to face with you. And I absolutely want to know more about what you will do if you were in that leader role 100% of the time. Thank you so much for coming. I'll see you guys next Monday. Bye now.